So they're almost as fit as Thomas DeLauer and twice as fat. And you said they were still in good shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
In all seriousness, they are in great shape.
The third study here, this one sort of helped to paint a good picture of where this is helpful and not helpful. So a couple of differences in these study subjects. They were younger, in relatively good shape. The O2 max average 57, body fat percent 13.4%. I don't know if that's in body or dex. I actually couldn't get the full text of this paper.
So they're almost as fit as Thomas DeLauer and twice as fat. And you said they were still in good shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
In all seriousness, they are in great shape.
Yeah. But they did a 2.6 mile uphill run. And to get a gauge of the pack, your 4 slowest runners did it in 25 minutes. The 4 fastest runners did it in just under 18 minutes. So those fast guys were really booking it. But this is a longer duration of exercise being the point compared to these other 2 trials.
Yeah. My hydrogen-infused beer. Let me give that a shot.
Yeah. I couldn't find the grade of the hill. Maybe it was just a 1% uphill, and it makes it less impressive, but still a pretty good effort and pretty good athletes. And it seemed like again, this is really slicing up the data. I don't even know if this meets statistical significance, but if you slice it to the 4 slowest runners, they got about a 3 to 36 second time improvement in their time trial, this run. The 4 fastest runners, so it looks like one of them had a 10-second improvement, but on average, the other ones added 26 seconds to their race time. So I would be hard-pressed to say that it's harming performance, but I don't think that if you are an elite runner or an elite athlete, that it's going to be actually improving performance.
Interesting. So you see this clear data where if you're a bad runner, you knock 10 seconds off your time. And if you're a good runner, you add 26 seconds. The data looks pretty clear to me. It's performance harming if you're a good athlete, and it's performance improving if you're not.
So they should just put everyone on this in the Olympics so the races are closer, right? It would bring your 4 slowest runners up and slow down the 4 fastest runners in each event.
They could compare it to the wave light technology where it just helps you pace along. Or if you get too far ahead, then you'd have to drink some hydrogen water as a penalty. Or it could be like in the marathon, instead of knocking over the other water cups for the other participants, then they just give the ones out ahead.
They leave hydrogen water for them. Yeah, that'd be funny.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, this is sampling error. So that's why you see some ups and some downs. The takeaway from this is this study was probably run by a group of scientists that was not on the payroll of a hydrogen water company. That's my takeaway from this study.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And we sort of went out of order here. We jumped to human studies, but what about preclinical studies? So what do the mice or mouse data tell us?
Anything we want? Or is that a rhetorical question?
Not rhetorical.
There's a lot of very uninteresting mouse studies, including probably the mouse study where they induced diabetes in a mouse and then it improved that. But mouses were probably happy about that one, I guess, but not as happy about the one on neuropathic pain where they sliced their sciatic nerve and then measured pain scores and neuropathic pain specifically after treating with hydrogen water. And there was a potential effect. They said maybe it's anxiolytic effect, maybe it's antioxidant effect, but it is somewhat interesting. I suppose you could say if you're a human that has also had their sciatic nerve sliced or has painful neuropathy, and you've already used evidence-based strategies and talked about risks and benefits, it's probably not going to harm you if you have severe neuropathic pain and you use hydrogen water. It might be relatively expensive, but it's not going to harm you, in my opinion. So it is most interesting for that when you translate the preclinical studies, which are animal studies.
Right. So I think we can rate it neutral to slightly beneficial in people who are not particularly athletic, but completing athletic endeavors, I suppose you could make the case that it would actually be detrimental if you are someone who's trying to train and improve. If you're getting less of that inflammation response from exercise and less lactic acid, then you may actually be having some downsides, some negatives to that if you're adding it into your training. But if your goal is to just make it from, event to event, if you're in a demanding sport like if you're in the NBA, right, basketball season, and you're already icing and doing all these things to try to recover more quickly and prevent muscle soreness between games, then maybe that does make sense. But I don't think it's going to drive the adaptations to exercise that your average person is looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose you could look at it. You don't necessarily want to decrease inflammation. Bodybuilders definitely do not want to decrease inflammation. If you're an NBA player and icing makes things feel good, because it's cool to not ice now. Because even the person who invented rice says, yeah, rice is not great from like an injury healing perspective or like a muscle, if you desire muscle protein synthesis. From that perspective, you want that intra and post-training inflammation. But again, if, like you said, a lot of NBA teams have games that are back to back to back, and unless you're on like the load sharing or whatever they call it, to where you can sit and not have to play for your contract. We should have that for podcasts too. But anyway, hydrogen water, I could see it getting in that same vein. Like, maybe it helps with recovery and less lactic buildup, but perhaps similar to icing and ice baths, it's a way to never be big.
Yeah. Have fun staying small, drinking your hydrogen water.
Yeah. That's like, what's your ultimate stack for
blunting adaptations to exercise?
Yeah, blunting adaptations and blunting muscle growth.
Throw some metformin in there.
Metformin, allulose, GLP-1. Although not as much GLP-1, oddly enough. More so metformin and allulose. And then ice baths right after you exercise.
Maybe an ice bath in hydrogen water.
Yes. There's actually a Japanese study, and they infused an entire bathtub with hydrogen water and then put the patients with autoimmune and connective tissue disorders in the bathtub. Their CRP went down, mostly transiently, but also a little bit a week later. And then normal, healthy individuals that just took regular baths, they didn't have a huge change.
That methodology is just extremely frustrating.
Yeah. They kind of might as well have not tried to have a control group with a regular bath. It would have been equally as interesting and less frustrating if they just
did it as a pilot study. Open label, like nobody is blinded. But if they would have split those up, 5 healthy, get hydrogen, 5 connective tissue, get hydrogen water bath, 5 healthy, get regular bath, 5 connective tissue disorders, get regular bath, split them up that way, then you really have a well-designed trial. Maybe less likely to see the effects they were looking for. But if you really believe in the technology that much, then you'd sort of be inclined to design a study like that couldn't be sort of shot down or picked apart.
Maybe they just believe in the technology so much that they felt like it would be unethical
to give the patients a placebo.
They didn't want to wait for the FDA to step in and in the trial early because it's going so well.
Plausible.
Yeah.